If, like me, you want to pay less money for games, check out G2A. The link is in the description below. It doesn't matter if you are on Xbox or PlayStation or PC like myself, you can pick up some really great bargains. Hey guys, what is up? It's TotalXclipse here, and recently I've actually been getting a few questions about how to fly better because I tend to do rather well, especially obviously when you get the hero ships, but even without the hero ships I tend to do pretty well in general. So first things first, before you get into a dogfight, there are two things you need to sort out. First, your gamepad or mouse sensitivity needs to be adjusted to your playstyle. During normal first-person shooters, I use a DPI of about 10,000 and then reduce the sensitivity in game for playing it. However, when I jump into a fighter in Star Wars Battlefront, I find that I have to reduce my DPI to 4,000 as it's just uncontrollable elsewise. So try flying around a little bit and getting a good idea of the sensitivity, and then reduce it or increase it depending on your playstyle. The best ways to do this are try out the tutorials in the mission section. The first mission is Beggar's Canyon, which gives you a better opening to flight in Star Wars Battlefront. So as you all know, I use a mouse to dogfight, but it does come with its drawbacks. For example, if I'm trying to make a tight turn, I do have to draw back the mouse every so often to try and keep up, which can make it difficult pursuing enemies on tight corners. So it might be an idea, if you want to be the very best, to get a gamepad or a joystick. And if you guys already have one, let me know if you find it easier than using a mouse. It's something that I'm considering getting. I do really want a joystick, so let me know if you do find it easier or if it's just another thing to worry about. Now the next thing you want to do is choose whether you prefer dogfighting in first person or third person. Both have their advantages, and though it's possible to swap between both camera modes in game, I find it distracts my personal playstyle. Now the biggest upper hand playing in third person is that you get a much larger view, which allows you to see enemies a lot easier and also spot which angles they're coming from when they're attacking you, allowing you to evade them much easier. However, I find first person mode to be much more accurate, especially when you're not using your auto lock-on targeting. Now your first option when you get into fighter squadron is to choose your ship. The rebels have the X-wing or the A-wing as the choice. Generally speaking, in the original series of games, the A-wing was a lot more nimble, but more fragile than the X-wing, whereas the X-wing was a lot more slower but more durable and had higher firepower. I'm not sure if that's the case in Battlefront, as I always seem to do a lot better in the A-wing. In regards to the Imperials have the TIE Fighter and the TIE Interceptor, and it's a similar kettle of fish. The TIE Fighter is supposed to be more durable than the TIE Interceptor and supposed to be slower than the TIE Interceptor. But whether that has been applied to Battlefront, I don't know. But in general, I will always go with either the A-wing or the TIE Interceptor. One thing to bear in mind, if you do go with the X-wing or the TIE Fighter, it's much easier to pretend that you're one of the AI and get the sneak on other players. Now when positioning yourself in game, I like to think of the map as a sandwich. Now you don't want to be that lovely filling on the inside, because everyone will want a piece of you. This is quite a nice metaphor, I'm going to run with it. So there are two places you either want to be. You either want to be on the upper crust or the lower crust. The lower slice of bread is where I tend to be, simply because I find that I have a higher chance of picking up the power-ups and getting other enemies flying into the walls when I'm trying to lose them. I'm quite sure in my abilities of flying. I do make mistakes, but if you know how to fly, you can normally pull it off quite easily. Fly lower to the surface, you can sometimes shake them or they'll crash. You can pick up a repair or a cooldown pickup and then go back up into the fight and eat some of that lovely filling. I know that some people prefer to be flying on at the top of the box simply because most people don't look up, and so it means that they can quite easily fly down and pick off one or two people, and you're not going to crash, which is a good point, and it depends entirely on how sure you are in your abilities. Now, when it comes to dogfighting, regardless of what ship you are in, whether it's a fighter or a hero ship, there are some things that you should know. First off, if you slow down your speed, you do open yourself to more damage from enemies simply because it's easier for them to target you. However, it also increases your damage output by moving power from your speed and engines to your blasters. So you can actually increase your damage output by slowing down, and you can reduce it by speeding up to a maximum speed. Now the trick here is to balance it out. What I tend to do is speed quite close to the enemy and then reduce my speed so that I can do a huge amount of damage in a short amount of time. But sometimes I will just balance it so that I am halfway between both my speed and my damage output so that I can keep up with the enemy and do relatively good damage. Now when you're in a TIE fighter or TIE interceptor, if you are attacking an enemy and they put up their shields, what you can do is launch your missile special ability. Now what that does, if it hits the enemy that has the shield up, it will automatically remove the shield, allowing you to take them out with your blasters. Other things to bear in mind: if you get locked on by a missile, try and use the terrain to your advantage. If you're flying low like I normally do, you can actually get it to hit the ground rather than yourself with a few ducks and dives. Also, even in midair, you don't necessarily need to hit your maneuvering thrusters, you just have to time it right between doing sharp turns. To sharp turn more effectively, I recommend going as fast as you can outwards and then turning into the turn and reducing your throttle as much as possible. That will make the turns tighter. If you're lucky, a missile might pass you if it's been locked on, or you'll be able to get a better lock on the enemy who's in front of you. Whilst on the subject of maneuvers, on PC you have the ability to use F1, F2 or F3 to engage in maneuver. I don't know what it is for consoles, but these are very useful. Engaging them will allow you to shake off any locks as well as any missiles heading towards you. Something to be aware of: if you maneuver using the left or right maneuver and you just flip, the enemy is still going to be behind you. Whereas I recommend always, in almost every single circumstance, using F2, which is the 180-degree turn behind. It gives you a good chance to either try and do a full loop-the-loop and actually landing yourself behind the enemy and attacking them, or an easy way just to get away from them. Now, Fighter Squadron is a pretty simple game mode. Essentially, it's team deathmatch, and you have to destroy 200 enemy before they destroy 200 of you. Now, the way the point system works is they get 1 point for every AI, or you get 1 point for every AI you kill, 3 points for every human player killed, regardless of whether they're in a fighter or a hero ship, and 20 points for the transport. So I always recommend going for the transport ship, as it's really easy points to pick up, especially if you are in a hero pickup. And when it comes to heroes, whether you're fighting them or you're them yourself, try and think whether it's worth engaging their hero. If they're not doing very good as the hero, let them fly around in the ship. I mean, it's just going to take up a lot of your time, whereas you could be using that time to destroy their ships, their fighters, which are really easy to take out. So think about that before you engage. Obviously, if you're in the Millennium Falcon, you can abuse your powers slightly more, which we'll get onto in a bit. Now, one way to get points really easy is to wait for the transport ships, and when the enemy goes to take out your transport ship, fly behind them and take them all out. It's really simple. Same goes if you are going for the transport ship on their team, you can always drop behind slightly, and while the enemy is going for the other fighters on your team that are slightly in front, you'll be able to pick off a few of them. After roughly 1 minute in game, the hero icons appear. If you can capture one, it will either grant you the Millennium Falcon if you're on the Rebel side, or the Slave one if you are on the Imperial side, and these are incredibly strong if you know how to use them. Now, both the Millennium Falcon and the Slave one do incredible amounts of damage and can make short work of all fighters and transport ships, which make them very powerful. If anything, I think they're a bit too OP in the game at the moment and should be nerfed slightly. Now, the Slave one comes with 3 abilities. The first one is the Ion Cannon, which is brilliant at both taking out shields and doing considerable damage to any ship that it comes across, and is very similar to the homing missiles that you see in the A-Wing, for example. It also comes with homing missiles, which means it has a huge amount of offensive capabilities compared to the Millennium Falcon, and it also has a trick up its sleeve, which is the radar block, which stops all missiles and all blaster lock-ons for 10 seconds, which is incredibly powerful if you use it, followed by, when it runs out, the maneuvering capabilities. It means that you're pretty much invulnerable for 20 seconds. Now, the Millennium Falcon actually comes with a shield itself and a speed boost, and also has proton torpedoes, which makes it a very balanced ship. The problem with the Millennium Falcon is that it does have the shield, and it can be abused. So guys, I'm going to tell you this, I've not done it because it annoys me when it happens to me in game, so I wouldn't do it on other people unless they're really annoying me. But with the Millennium Falcon, if you want to take out the Slave one, all you need to do is activate your shield and ram the Slave one, and it will destroy the Slave one, and you will still be alive. Now, that is broken. I'm hoping they're going to fix that. EA hasn't actually said anything about it, which is annoying because it does ruin the game. So those were all the tips I could think of that would help you do better when it comes to dogfighting in Star Wars Battlefront. Most of these tips are transferable to other game modes. Obviously, if you're playing on Walker Assault and you have the land speeders, snow speeders, then they aren't going to be as applicable, but there are still elements that you can take from it. If there are any questions, feel free to let me know, and if you have anything you'd like to say, again, please let me know in the comment section below. If you did find this video helpful, please like it, it really is appreciated, and if you want to see more videos, both gameplay, how-to guides, feel free to subscribe.